What's going on, everyone? It's Kyle here with Gnarly Knives, and I got a cool video today. There's going to be a little different than some of the normal videos of typical reviews I'll do, because this knife here, I'm not really sure you can get, at least not very easily. This knife here was actually a gift from this badass coworker of mine, and he actually is just came up to me one day at work, and he's like, "Oh, hey, I got something for you," and I don't know. I just thought it was something work related, and he just handed this over to me, and I couldn't believe it because this is a beautiful knife. Um, so this is a Falcon, is a stiletto. I've done some research on it to try to get a better idea. I know the knife is very old. I know he had said that it's been in his work desk for quite a few years, and I imagine he probably had it for several years before that. Um, Looking it up, I it's funny because the company is around. They do still make knives. They're in Italy. You may be able to see a little bit. I don't know. So I thought that was pretty cool. Being half Italian, the motherland and everything. Um, the Italians, it's funny. The cars they make aren't that great, in my opinion, but they do make some pretty nice knives. What I like about it though is this isn't the typical like because it looks very much like a switchblade, which are really cool. I mean, I have a couple, but what I like about it though, it's a back lock, and it's opened up with a the nail nick. So it's you got that cool, stiletto look. I mean, it is a stiletto. The blade profile, it's a stiletto. Um, but it's that old school traditional style. I mean, even with the handle material, which I do think it is actually bone. I couldn't confirm that online, but the way it looks and feels, I think it is bone. But what I thought was kind of cool, it was you could tell they're definitely kind of inspired. It just reminded me very much of the old school like American, traditional knives that use bone a lot. I mean, I'm sure obviously a lot of countries everybody use bone and stuff like that. I mean, Americans we aren't the only one, but very very prevalent in you think to me it just reminds me of those old the stag handle knives that people would use from stag from reindeer from deer bone. So I thought that was really cool. But it even has that look with the cross guard on it. It's a really cool looking knife, and it's very well made. I mean, like I said, he'd had it for a very long time, but with it, you can tell. I mean, the blade is still perfectly dead center. So there's definitely some quality in the making of it. And what is really cool, when I first looked at it, I wasn't sure if it actually was, but then upon further inspection, this is actually a Damascus blade. Might not come up. The etching is definitely worn off over the years. You can kind of pick up a little bit, you can see. But with a lot of Damascus knives, a lot of them aren't Damascus. It's just a design that's put on the blade. But this is genuine Damascus because you can even tell when you're looking at it. It even goes into the tang, into the handle. So what I actually want to do is, which I'll get into in another minute or two, because I want to really restore this knife, clean it up, put a really good edge on it, and I want to get some solution to some etching solution. I want to bring that Damascus back out, make that pop. So which is really really cool. And what I thought was kind of interesting is it is pretty sharp. I mean, when I got it from him, it is sharp. But it looks like this has a convex, which I thought was kind of interesting. So convex, as you know, they're pretty, stout edges, just their profile, being more rounded versus a V, so it gives it a good robustness to it. I mean, being a small knife, does it need to be super robust? Probably not. But it gives a more flowing aesthetic. I that's something I appreciate with convex grinds. Though they're not my favorite grind, I do appreciate them because it just everything flows together. So I think for a knife like this, it is very fitting. Um, and like you said, it's a back lock, and it's interesting how it locks in. It's a little different than say your traditional back locks that you used to has a little notch in the blade, and then the locking lever just opens and snaps in, and then that's how it's locked into place. With this here, there's a little protrusion in the blade, on the tang, you can see there's a little protrusion, and then there's this little, I don't know, you call it a plate, but it's part of the lock bar, and it just slams right in place right there. And it's kind of cool. It's different. So that's one of the things I think I'm really getting with this. Is just I think it's really cool because it's different in a lot of ways. It's not, it doesn't really fit into any real category that comes to my mind because it just has little snippets of things that just put it in a bunch of different categories. So I really appreciate that a lot. But you can tell even with the way it's made. I mean, it has, obviously, like I had said, the bone handle, but it has, some of the brass inlay, and then what looks to be, I would guess, maybe a nickel finish on the cross guard, and also the, butt of the handle, the pommel area. But what I actually want to do is, because I do have a ton of sandpaper from, anything from 60 grit up to about, I think 2500 is the finest grit that I have, currently. And I want to use that. I want to finish up the bolsters and everything, just really bring those colors out, and then use some mother's polish and just bring that to a nice shine. And then like I said, I want to etch it again. So just bring that Damascus right out, because when you look at it in the light, it definitely, you can see it. But I think once it's etched, it'll really pop, and you get that contrast in colors. Damascus is a really cool steel. Just how they do that and everything. But like I said, doing research on it, and I mean, I found a couple on eBay. I think they made a few different versions, some larger, probably even a little smaller. But that was right when I first got it. I mean, I should look up again. So I don't know how easily available these are. So that's why, like I said, it's not like a typical, like the Spyderco Endura, which actually I just got this, is a K390 version. But I'll save that for another video. But I can do a video on this. You can go out and buy one, either online or at a retailer. Whereas this, I don't know. But it's definitely something to keep an eye out for. I mean, especially if you like traditional knives. And it's something that I've really, really been getting into the last, probably close to a year or so. I mean, pretty much the only knives I've been really carrying lately. I mean, now I'm carrying the Endura. Before this, I was carrying the Spyderco, the Atlantic Salt 2, which is also a backlock. I've been carrying that for since I got it, 2-3 months. But I've been really, really digging the more traditional knives. I mean, even too, I did that video, I love the Duke. This is constantly in my pocket. Since I have bought this knife has not left my pocket. I mean, especially too, because it's so thin and small, it just slides right in. But that's another thing with this too, because this is, definitely an in the pocket knife. It doesn't have a clip, but I don't think it needs one. I mean, even for example too, which I'll be doing a video on at some point, but I picked up a couple of case knives, because just going with that, the traditional knives, picked up the sod buster, but this is another slip joint, just the very traditional knives. And that's what I think, this is like traditional, but it's like fancy traditional. And it's something I can really appreciate. And I just think it's really cool. It's a very pretty knife. And then too, it has the Italian thing going with it, the Italianness of it. And then, with the back lock, it's towards the back here, or yeah, it's a back lock on the back, but towards the back of the blade, versus, a lot of them are like this, where it's in the middle on the back of the knife. So this kind of reminds me a little bit of like the Buck 110s. So it's like this thing has, several grandparents of different knives, the old like stag handled knives, maybe the Buck 110, the Italian, the switchblade stilettos. It's just very reminiscent of a lot of different things that they tried to capture and pull together. And a lot of times, it's kind of the, too much on the plate, do too many things, everything kind of gets muddled. But I think this is an instance where everything kind of works, because you have all of that stuff going on, but it makes it a really unique item. So that's why I really encourage anyone out there, if you can find these, snatch them up. I want to try and get a couple more knives from this company. I mean, definitely some of their older stuff, but even whatever they're making now, I would love to pick up. I think they're also making more modern style knives now too. But I really want to get a couple more. I mean, if I could grab another one of these, I definitely would. And it's, the pin construction. So I mean, that's like another aspect too. Which, it's kind of hit or miss in that sense. I mean, it's like the case knives; they're all pin construction, or the Duke. So that is a downside. It can't be taken apart. Though I mean, it's not impossible to clean. It just makes it a little more of a pain in the ass. But I mean, I'm used to that anyway with like the Duke. It's funny because it takes me probably as much time, if not longer, than some of my more, like, to fully disassemble like a Benchmade. And I don't mean like just take the blade out. I mean like fully disassemble a Benchmade and have to mess with the axis lock and put it back together. It's probably about the amount of time it takes me to clean this. Maybe a lot of that is just OCD and stuff because, even when I clean this, like I put a bunch of oil in it, use Q-tips, wipe it out, put a bunch of that Benchmade, like the knife lube, into the pivot area, just, literally just sitting there, just like, watching something and just, opening it up back and forth, working oil in. But as you would put more in, it would squeeze out, you would get this like fouled oil, like this dirty oil coming out. It would just keep doing that. And I mean, the action on it was pretty decent, I mean, you could definitely tell it was sitting for a little bit, just kind of chilling. But throw a little bit of oil in the pivot. I mean, this thing, I mean, it just, oh, it doesn't snap like that, but it just goes, it closes, it opens very nice, it's smooth. So that's something I really like about it. So I really hope you guys like this video. I know it has been a little while since I've done one. I know this is a little bit of a shorter video, but I just had a few minutes right now. I just really wanted to pump this out. But there are going to be a lot more videos coming. I mean, I have thousands of ideas for different video bugs, thousands of ideas for all different videos I want to do, and especially now where I got the K390 Endura, I want to do a video on. The case knives, I actually want to do another video on the Duke, and I want to do a follow-up review on the Atlantic Salt 2. I also have other knives I want to do reviews on that I've just been meaning to get to. And then also, too, I really want to do, it'll probably be one of my next couple videos. So a couple of the other knives that I just showed are going to have to wait a little bit. But I want to do, I don't know if I would necessarily call it a series, but I want to do, I guess maybe a mini series of videos. It won't be back to back to back, but just with the knives that I have in different price points for different things, for what I would use them for. So of course it's going to be subjective. It's just, what I have in my opinion. So if you take that for whatever it's worth, at the very least, it'll just be fun to watch, hopefully. But one of the next videos I do want to do, and I've actually been meaning to do, is doing budget outdoor knives. And not just necessarily like, of course there are going to be some Moras or Martinis in there, but some other options, but do it in price range of, say, under $50 or, $100 or less. So maybe do it one longer video, or I could pump it out in a few videos, do 50 or less, and then 50 to 100, and then maybe, I don't know, 1 to 200 or something like that. But in a range of, like I would love to do one for carving knives specifically, do one for, outdoor knives, for EDC knives, for whatever knives. Though I'm not a tactical person, I have no knife fighting skills, I haven't been police or military, but, if I was to be in one of those positions, what knife would I carry? It might do something like that. My more tactical knives. I guess they're more tactical, because I'm not very tactical. But I hope you guys like this video. I hope you guys get something out of it. And if you guys want one, I really hope you can find one, because these are a really beautiful knife. And Johnny, I think you're watching. I know you've been bugging me to make a video, so that's why I really wanted to get this out for you specifically, but also for everybody else. But I just wanted to do it right. I didn't want to, just pump something out and then just have it be whatever. But I do really appreciate this knife, Johnny. It's an absolutely beautiful knife. And, when I do have it all finished and cleaned up, I'm going to bring it into work, and I want you to see it and check it out. Especially once I get like a nice edge and do the etch and just bring it back to like it was brand new. So that'll definitely involve a little more research. Find some pictures of these brand new, even some like old, if these were in magazines or anything like that back in the day. Um, but yeah, so guys, thank you for watching, and remember to keep carve and stay sharp. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.